in the spirit that is Christmas, why not review Christmas films? And you might say, Gary, you're talking about a Marvel film. Well, there is one Christmassy Marvel film, and joining me to talk about it, Barry's back.
Oh! You know, I actually forgot until I was sitting down to watch the film again. I forgot that it was, in fact, somewhat Christmassy.
It's super weird, because this film was released in May.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, this wasn't a Christmas film. This film was released in May 2013, and it's not a full-on Christmas film, but it's basically a full-on Christmas film.
Yeah. It's funny, because this is another one that I didn't watch when it came out. I watched quite a while after it came out, and this is only my second time watching it. But yeah, that's very odd. You know, I mean, we're in the season now of debating what is and is not a Christmas film. That seems to be the popular thing to do every Christmas now online, but... Yeah, so I define a Christmas film as something that takes place at Christmas, but also I think the defining theme of a Christmas film, and this is why Die Hard absolutely is one, is it's always about family and the protagonist, typically a man, being estranged and down on his luck and everyone turning on him, but in the end, they're all like, oh no, family is important, and they all come together, which I guess kind of happens in this.
Yeah,
you know.
I think this just about meets those criteria.
In the same way, Die Hard kind of is as well. You know, the down on his luck protagonist, you know, gets the family together in the end. But yeah, that's kind of the story really of all the Iron Man movies, as we'll kind of get to, I suppose, as we break this one down. You know, Tony Stark, bit of an arsehole, but in the end, it all comes together.
There is a very important question. Is, for you, A Nightmare Before Christmas a Christmas film or a Halloween film?
I think it's a bit too... The musical aspect of it makes me feel Christmas.
Yeah, it's a Christmas film. It's definitely a Christmas film.
Yeah, it's not really... I mean, you know, I don't know too many Halloween films that are as kind of fun and jolly and... I mean, obviously there are aspects of it that are a little bit scary and a little bit dark, but no, I think it's just a scary Christmassy film, like Santa's Sleigh. Or wait, no, what's the one with Goldberg?
Oh, what is the one with Goldberg?
What is that thing called? I think it might be Santa's Sleigh, but I can't remember.
Yeah, Jingle All the Way has Big Show in it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's another good, and that's a great. I tell you what, right? Some people don't like that film. I unironically think that is a tremendous Christmas film. It's so much fun.
Those people are wrong. That film is fantastic.
It's peak wacky Arnold, and you got Sinbad in there. Oh. Anyway, we're here to talk about something less fun.
That is true. We're talking about 2013's Iron Man 3, not directed by Jon Favreau this time, directed by Shane Black, who was known for writing Lethal Weapon. Speaking of irony, he wrote The Last Action Hero, and he directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr.
Not a bad resume, certainly.
He's certainly more of an action-y guy than like a comedy or anything else.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of the most traditional kind of action film director I think the MCU has had so far.
Yeah, and I think that kind of shows in this film. I mean, I really wasn't big on this film at all, but I think the action set pieces work and stuff like that. I feel like most of my criticisms of the film really wouldn't be to do with his direction. I think kind of fatigue more than anything else. But yeah,
because I saw this film at the time, and when I saw it, I'm like, that's a really good film. I really like this film. And then I watched this film on Monday, and now I don't like this film anymore. It's not a good film at all.
I remember, so particularly during Phase 1 and then early Phase 2, as people might have picked up on, as from all the reviews we've done so far, just the MCU just wasn't grabbing me, so I wasn't seeing things as they came out. And I just remember when Iron Man 3 came out, man, everyone loved to argue about whether or not this was any good at all. And people, similar to 2, people were just hotly debating this, and I was like, well, I'm really glad I'm not watching this now. I'll come to it myself in my own time later. And then I watched it, I think a year or two after it came out, and I was pretty negative on it. And I came back to it here, and I was like, yeah, I think a lot of my problems, I still have them with this. Plus, you and I were kind of tearing through these films at a relatively decent pace, and that just makes the fatigue feel like even more kind of pronounced,
Because I think this film has okay ideas, on its surface it seems to be like a film about PTSD, where he's like having panic attacks and all that kind of stuff, but then that's dropped halfway through the film and never really resolved in any way.
Yep.
And like the whole kid thing in the middle is kind of, it's charming, it's fun, and then the kid just kind of disappears.
It's Christmassy, and it's this. Yeah, I think the ideas are good, but I guess this is the first real film where we'll have to talk about something in the MCU that I think does become more of an issue the further into the MCU you go, especially with the Netflix shows, and that's just the tonal dissonance, between some of the films and some of the shows, and even between certain acts of just films self-contained are kind of jarring. And you and I were just talking in the last episode about how Avengers, maybe not this blowaway film, but it's a fun, jovial, beat up the generic alien monster thing and have fun while you're doing it film. And I thought this the first time I saw it, and I thought it this second time, I just don't buy the PTSD facet of this film. And the kind of stony-faced reverence they give to the events of the Avengers, they feel very inorganic to me, I guess is maybe the word, even though I do respect the idea they were going for and the change of pace. And as bizarre as it is to say, I feel like, dare I say, even like DCU maybe could have pulled this off a little better. For as flawed as all their stuff is, they are at least a dark and miserable, downtrodden universe.
You would understand why Superman would have post-traumatic stress disorder after murdering millions of people in Man of Steel.
Yeah, or I'm imagining in the Batman, whenever that comes out, that there'll probably be a great deal. Oh, well, I guess Justice League's first. I guess Batman will be like forlorn and maybe blame himself for Superman, and it'll work in that film in some capacity, if that film works at all, which I doubt it will. That's another podcast. Yeah, it's just I like the idea, but it just didn't wash for me, and I like Robert Downey Jr. an awful lot in these films, but I didn't like his anxious, depressed Tony Stark. I just didn't really like it.
No. And by the way, that kid played by Ty Simpkins.
Yeah.
This film made $1.2 billion, and Jurassic World made $1.6 billion. So that kid, and he was in Jurassic World too, that kid can pick 'em.
He sure can. Big box office star,
I've actually done a bit of research. Films, including, he was in Insidious as well. So in films he starred in, have grossed more money than the whole careers of Will Smith, Orlando Bloom,
damn.
Matt Damon, Nicolas Cage, Brad Pitt, and Dwayne Johnson.
Jeez.
This kid is a star.
Is he the kid from Insidious? Like, there's the main kid?
Yep.
Damn. Now that's a draw right there. Take that, Dwayne Johnson.
This kid is, Dwayne Johnson, you and your Scorpion Kings and your acting careers. You got nothing on Ty Simpkins.
Nope.
That middle bit of the film, though, it does feel the most Christmassy. It's just like, oh, look at Iron Man mocking this kid. Oh, isn't it fun? Family. Oh, no, he's basically the father figure now.
Yeah, it was like, centering around the whole anxiety, PTSD thing. Tony Stark had to hit rock bottom, and then they, have this kind of human redemption story, and they use a child to leverage that. And, good kid, as kid actors go, not the worst, definitely. And I don't know that section of the film was bad per se, but as you mentioned earlier, it felt like it was this completely detached, unimportant thing. When the closing set piece of the film, when the third act is kicking off, it's like you forgot you even saw that whole building the suit in the garage and potato gun scene. You forgot all about that. It's like you didn't even remember it.
Yeah, this film is weirdly structured because, like, the three acts, you have the PTSD act, the kid act, and then the big invade a compound and then robots shoot each other act. And they just don't feel connected in any way, do they?
No. And also I feel like the third one, if the first two are full of kind of some somewhat interesting ideas, even if they don't all work, they're still all there. Then the third one is where they do a bunch of reveals, a bunch of twists, and then you're like, oh, Iron Man's fighting an evil white guy in a suit who wants his power. Oh, your twist is that it's the same film I've seen twice? Oh, no. This is like the opposite of a good twist. And it's weird because I was actually thinking about this earlier today. I watched the film last night and I was kind of digesting it today as I was preparing for this. And I was like, not to act like the idea of a generic Middle Eastern terrorist is profoundly great and original and never before done, because obviously that's not true. But the MCU exists in this weird space where that actually would have been the more interesting and creative direction to go in. Maybe put a bit more real life into the MCU, but then they bait and switched you, and it was actually this Marvel Cinematic Universe archetype antagonist. And oh man, I actually forgot about that. I remembered there was a twist. I remembered obviously the Mandarin was not the Mandarin per se. It was not what it appeared to be. But I forgot that just how by the numbers the actual villain was. And yeah, I really feel like I kind of checked out when I was watching it last night. I kind of just once that kind of kick-started and that kind of jogged my memory of how the film ended, I was like, okay, let's just get through this because I've started watching it now, so I'm not going to knock it off. But yeah, that was real disappointing.
Guy Pearce's random white guy villain didn't capture your imagination?
No. And it's funny because I know there's plenty more to come in the ensuing films. But yeah, I think if there is such a thing as MCU fatigue, I think it's 100% personified by the mainline Iron Man films, and coupled with the fact that he's a prominent role of the ensemble films, it's just like, yeah, I don't know what the plan is, but I have no problem with more Iron Man in the future of the universe. But in terms of solo films, I am hoping that they're done.
You see, that's interesting. Like, this film did make $1.2 billion.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, like, if you're a studio, you should look and say, the Iron Man films are bank, let's make more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't. So I think they kind of recognize that, Iron Man by himself kind of doesn't work. Let's put him in other people's films where it kind of works a lot better, even though we're leaving probably billions of dollars on the table doing so.
Yeah, I mean, for as much as they are business minded and there's an awful lot of churn on the Disney Marvel side. I mean, we've said many times it's churn, but it is quality focused on some level. Even if they have their misfires, they're not. They do learn from their mistakes, and they're not just about churning out garbage and hoping, oh well, the name will draw. And that's commendable. It really is. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, I think. Plus, I mean, how many characters really need more than 3 films in a lifetime? I mean, you look at how long, in our lifetime, you and I mean, how many Batman films have there been? And think about, like, what's the ratio? Like 50-50? Like, in terms of good versus bad?
Hey, Batman and Robin is a classic.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Some people say it doesn't. I do think it has camp so bad it's good value. So I'll give it that much. But it's, I mean, that... forever not the worst thing ever, but Batman v Superman I really didn't like, and I'm one of those people who didn't really like Rises. But so the point being that these days it feels like every kind of every character they give it to a director or they go with a trilogy, and then as soon as that's over, it's just immediate reboot. Like not give it 5-10 years off. No, straight away. Let's get the next Spider-Man out there, next director, next main actor. I kind of liked it somewhat quietly because he's still in films as a character, but I do appreciate that the Iron Man films, they had their run. The films are what they are, love them or hate them, and now as standalone films, they're just quietly kind of done. I think that's actually pretty cool.
You know what I would have loved as a post-credits scene for this? If they revealed that Ben Kingsley's Mandarin was in fact actually the Mandarin all along.
That would be pretty good, and it was all a ploy.
That would have been, like, I went down to that film saying, why didn't they do it? It would have been so good. Yeah, well, yeah, but, I mean, what we got was what we got. I did enjoy his, I mean, that's part of what was disappointing about the reveal, was I did enjoy his vignettes, in the film, his little propaganda films. He's a great actor, and they were very, they were very engrossing. His fake villain was more engaging than the real villain.
And I'll say this much, as bummed out as that twist made me, he wasn't bad as comic relief.
He's a very good actor.
He's a good actor, absolutely, and he was amusing in that capacity.
I also find it weird that like Jon Favreau was in the other films, but he was basically in this film more than the other two, even though he didn't direct it.
Yeah, well, he's not in the business of putting himself over. He when he was at the helm, he didn't put himself front and center. I did appreciate his mullet, by the way.
It was impressive.
Although I did do a double take. I was like, wait a second, that would have been out of place even in 1999. But I think Tony Stark's douchebag facial hair that they gave him for 1999, thought that was pretty on point with a turn of the millennium playboy character.
Basically makes him, he doesn't even have to say a word. It's just like, I don't like you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the perfect facial hair.
And that scene did have Blue by Eiffel 65 going on, so
which is, as the kids would say these days, a banger.
A banger, and a classic at that.
By the way, that scene at the start of the film had Sean Tobe, who was from Iron Man 1, in a little cameo.
Oh, yes, he was the guy from the cave.
Yes, Caveman.
Yes, that was it. I was when I was watching the film back, I was like, is that him? And I was too lazy to check it up, but I assumed it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice little cameo.
And we had our Stan Lee cameo, which was him fawning over women at a beauty pageant.
Yeah, he held up a little 10 card. Yeah, it's alright,
I don't mind, like, when he's just, like, there, I don't like them. But when, there's a little bit of a gag behind him being there, it's like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
This is a joke. Yeah, I don't like this film, though. It's a very good central performance surrounded by a pretty crappy film.
Yeah. A bunch of decent enough ideas not executed on well enough. Some real, as we mentioned, disconnects between the acts. The film doesn't really flow in any meaningful way, and yeah, as I said, I mean, we're deep in the jaded kind of boilerplate scripting of some of these Marvel films. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Although again, another small positive I think we've mentioned about some of these films. Not mandatory viewing to understand Ultron, but I do appreciate that the films tie in that way. Even if it is just a brief mention at the beginning of Ultron, go, oh hey, remember all those suits I had that fly around on their own? Yeah, okay, moving on.
I did like that the end of this film, like the big emotional punch is like, I'm destroying all my suits. I'm not really going to be Iron Man anymore. That didn't last very long. No,
that was a Terry Funk retirement right there.
Yeah. So up next will be Thor: Dark World, which you haven't seen.
I have not seen. Yeah. A lot of people said they didn't like it, but I like Thor. I like Chris Hemsworth, and I do like when the MCU goes sort of different genre-wise, fantasy with Thor, sci-fi with Guardians, and I assume this will be more of the fantasy stuff. So I'll give it a go, and I'm sure I'll give it a shot.
I feel like Phase 2 is when they went kind of deeper into genre. Like Winter Soldier is kind of a spy thriller, Ant-Man's kind of a heist film. So it's not just kind of straight up action comedy, sci-fi. They kind of go deeper into subgenres.
Absolutely, and I like how when they're doing that, they're not just doing it with here's Iron Man as a spy. It's like, no, they're breaking into these new genres with new characters. So, and Doctor Strange is a good example where they've juxtaposed, here's the Marvel name that that you associate with quality. Here's a new character that you might not be familiar with, but it's also like a new genre. So you're getting something different. It's not just, I do think that they've managed to, for as much as they are samey, they've thrown enough wild cards at you the deeper they dig into the character library that they've kept it interesting. So hopefully I'm hoping for some fantasy fun here with Thor, and also some of the comedy that I enjoyed about the first one.
So before we go, plugs?
The usual plugs. Twitter.com/thebarrylad. It's where you can go for my various musings on life. And I'll also be posting links to my various adventures on YouTube. Barry Murphy 236, I believe, is the username on there. If you like superheroes, a new episode of Telltale's Batman is this week, which I'm hoping to stream at some point.
Hopefully it won't be a broken mess.
Well, we're 3 episodes in, and it has been every step of the way, so maybe, let's just hope it's a fun broken mess. I don't know. I'm so conflicted about that because it's like it's not bad if it worked and Telltale's stupid engine was not the broken mess that it is. I'd be like, this is a good Batman story. This is the Batman story I haven't heard 10 million times before. This is a nice spin on XYZ. But yeah, it is what it is. So follow me on Twitter for links to all that stuff, and I'm also trying to power through Doom at the moment, which I know you played as well.
I finished it last week. Great
yeah,
game.
What cracking game! Really enjoying that. So yeah, various adventures there on YouTube and Twitter is where you can go to catch all the updates on that.